So this is it.
This is it.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You did it. Okay, so my next guest on this episode of Frankie Say, which we're going to have to change the name today.
It's Aspen Say today.
The tables have turned.
So.
I'm a little nervous.
No, you're not.
A tiny bit.
You're so excited.
There's a loss of control.
There is.
Because you have the control.
I do.
So this is the episode where the producer gets to fire questions at me, and I have to take it, and I can't whine and cry about it, and I don't know the questions beforehand.
That is typically how an interview goes, yes.
Yeah, except for when you're like politicians sometimes, you know, they'll say
No.
a lot of times.
No, if they are given questions ahead of time, should never do that.
Well, when Joe Rogan wanted to have Kamala Harris on, she wanted all the questions beforehand, and then he wanted her to come to. And Joe Rogan's like, that's not how we do it.
Right.
We do it like Frankie Say.
Right.
Well, they didn't say it like that. But I
think I did hear him say that. He said, we are inspired by Frankie Say out of Quincy, Illinois.
Yeah. So this is, so you want to get started?
Sorry, I'm the host today, so if you could just, perfect. Thank you so much. Welcome to the first episode and only episode of Aspen Say. Today I have with me Frankie of Frankie Say, and we're gonna ask him some questions, and we're gonna do a little prodding there. So the first question that I have for you, we're gonna start off pretty simple. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, and I've been afraid to tell you this the entire time.
Oh.
Is it Giesing or Giesing?
Giesing.
Why are there two?
Okay. In Quincy, there's lots of German names.
Right.
And you'll see the consonants and vowels. So my last name is G-I-E. So the I is silent because it's German.
So
and
it's
then you
Giesing.
And then you pronounce the next.
Okay.
So there's another like really famous family in town, like Giese, for example. So Giese is G-E-I. You ignore the E, it's silent, and you produce the I. So a lot of German names in Quincy are like that, where the very first vowel silent. Yeah.
We got a lot to get.
Okay, let's go.
A lot to get to. Okay. Why though? Is it Murphy-Giesing?
Why is it Murphy-Giesing?
Yeah. What is the two?
So I was born Francis Joseph Murphy. My biological father's name was Francis Robert Murphy. And after my father passed away when I was 10, my mom remarried and married a man with the last name of Giesing. And then I was always Frank Murphy forever. And then one day I felt like Frankie made me feel younger. It was kind of a throwback to when I was a kid. And then when I created Frankie Murphy-Giesing on Facebook, when I signed up for a Facebook account.
Gotcha.
That was back in 08 or 09. That's when I signed up, and that's when I'm like, wait a second, I'm going to start calling myself this. So that's how I identify. Okay.
Well, that's very interesting. And you grew up in Chicago, right? Like that's where you were born? No, East St. Louis. Was it East St. Louis or Chicago?
My mother is from East St. Louis, and my dad was from St. Louis at the time. And I was born in St. Louis. I was born at Barnes Jewish Hospital. And then we moved to Chicago, and then the suburbs. We moved to Elgin, Algonquin, and then I didn't move to Quincy until 89 when I was 12.
Gotcha. And then after you left Quincy, where did you go to school? What did you major in?
Yeah, so after high school here, went to college at Illinois State and studied international business, finance, and psychology. And then when I finished it at Illinois State, I went to Chicago, moved downtown Chicago.
Gotcha. And then when did you come back to Quincy?
In 08.
Gotcha. And why did you do that?
Well, I came back to Quincy because I was talking with my dad, Walt, and he runs a business here in town. And he wanted some quality management systems to be implemented into his business. And I was going to San Diego. I was moving to San Diego. I had some job things lined up, staying with a friend. I was just going to move, still single at the time. This is back when I was 31 years old. And my dad, Walt, said, can you help me with this one thing, this project? I said, how long will it take? He said, a month. 6 months later, finally got it done, but then I stayed. I never left. So that's that. I mean, that's the truncated version.
Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you would have gone to San Diego?
Yes. Yes. I think about that a lot. I'm kind of a San Diego guy in terms of like I like Southern California. I like the weather. San Diego. Have you been to San Diego?
One time, and it was beautiful. Yeah.
It's beautiful, right? And there's La Jolla, and there's like really fun places to go. And that's just my speed, is San Diego. I think about it all the time. I wouldn't be married to Rachel, and I wouldn't have those 3 kids specifically with Rachel, right? I'd have 3 kids with somebody else that wouldn't look like those kids, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
I think about it, yeah.
Who knows? So I want to jump back a little bit. You had briefly mentioned that you started going by Frankie Murphy-Giesing when you started your Facebook account. And the last time that we had talked, you had mentioned that you had temporarily deactivated your Facebook account.
Yes.
You're now back on it, it looks like.
No, I'm off.
You're off of it? You just like deleted it off of your phone?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I don't have the mental fortitude to have Facebook app on my phone. I cannot do that. And I also won't put Messenger on the phone. Do you have Facebook, the app, on your phone?
I often delete it because it takes up too much of my time.
Yeah, okay. Do you have Messenger on your phone?
Yes, I never really use that though.
So-
my grandma and I communicate on Messenger, so that's why I have it. That's
Okay.
our like primary form of communication. So
Yeah,
that's why I
yeah.
have it.
So Facebook and Messenger used to be one app. And then they separated it
Right.
for a specific reason, which is sinister. It's a sinister reason why they separated it out. Some of it had to do with the size of it on the phone, so people could pick and choose. But the other reason was kind of a sinister reason we don't need to get into. But I deactivated from Facebook. It's temporary. I hope to be back after Lent.
Gotcha. I was going to say, like, before, when we talked about it last time, if I were to go search your account on Facebook, nothing would pop up, but it's back on.
Really?
Yes.
Can you click on it and go to my
sure
page?
Can. You sure can.
Okay, well that's bad.
It's okay if you've been secretly getting on
No.
it. I won't tell the Lord.
I have not. Okay.
Or maybe I will.
Freaks me out.
But, okay, so I guess you haven't reactivated your Facebook account, but
Right.
something's going on with that. But
Okay.
the idea of Facebook kind of becoming your microphone, what's the end goal with that? You seem to have a lot of posts. It seems like some of them have a very clear thing that you're trying to say. Some of them just seem to be the most random thoughts that happen to enter your brain that day, and you were like, I'm going to post about this. So what is the end goal with that?
The end goal is to lose as many friends in real life as possible. No, I'm kidding. No,
I was going to say, I think you might be doing that.
I might be doing that.
Yeah.
So anybody who gets, can you say the word triggered? Is that still a word that can be used? I think people get triggered by my Facebook posts. All right. Have you ever seen anybody on Facebook like take a picture of a salad? Have you ever seen that? That's not something I'm never going to take a picture of my salad.
Why not?
Because I don't care enough to share that. That's not something I'm like dying for everyone to like know about me. Or,
But you are dying for people to know your thoughts.
yeah, I would say this. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I do think that's like posting on social media. I think social media, there are people that, I think it's an art form if you care for it to be an art form. So have you ever seen anybody like take a picture, like they're doing this in front of the mirror, they're holding their phone up, they're taking a picture of a selfie, selfie after selfie after selfie, they're constantly looking in the mirror and showing their muscles, or they're at the gym, or they're always taking pictures of themselves, like their profile pics are just a bunch of pictures of them holding the phone up, taking pictures of themselves.
And what do you think that communicates to people?
Vapious, like nothing going on inside between the ears. Like I don't look at that as art. I think if you take a look at, do you know who Hank Rashar is? It's a guy from Quincy. He's a math teacher in Kansas. He's part, like Mike Scholl, he's good friends with Mike Scholl, who plays for Tri-Point Paradox, and he's just an awesome guy. Hank Rashar, very kind of a famous guy in Quincy. He has mastered the art of social media for his profile pic. He takes the like album cover art of like vinyl, and whatever picture of someone's face is on the album cover, he knows how to take a piece of his face and insert it like seamlessly into album cover art. And he's done this scores of times. So whenever he changes his profile pic, everybody like jumps on it and 500 likes. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, I will get a text from somebody that says, have you seen Hank's new profile pic? Because it's genius. That's art. My profile pics are not that good. But I think that people, I think that I probably misuse Facebook. I think Facebook is probably just for pictures of the kids, pictures of the salads, pictures of yourself. It's Facebook. It would be way nicer if nobody ever talked about politics and didn't have the stupid random thoughts that are just causing people problems. But it's either I post something thought-provoking or stay the hell off of it.
So what do you think that your posts say about you? Your posts, the way that you talk on the podcast, what do you think that tells people about you?
It depends how they're wired. If they understand the satirical nature of it. So a lot of this is tongue-in-cheek. It's like in jest. So you ever noticed, well, let me ask you this. Can we agree that my Facebook posts, or some people's Facebook posts, okay? Let's just talk about mine. Let's say I write something that is quite triggering and maybe some people are taking like wild offense to it. The chances of me doing that interpersonally with a person, it's near zero. So one of my best friends, I wrote something about the length of a woman's hair at age 60. Can you see where this is going?
No, tell me.
Oh my gosh. I wrote a post one time that said, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what I wrote. So this is going to be triggering. This is going to be controversial, what I'm going to say. I wouldn't expect you to like it. I wouldn't expect anybody to like it. But this is what I said. I said, long hair, like when you're a Victoria's Secret model, back in the day when Victoria's Secret models were had a certain feel, 98% of them have really long hair. Most girls, females, have longer hair as opposed to shorter hair. As you get into your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, there's kind of, the distribution is changed. But the number of 60 and 70-year-old women that have long hair, it's not that much. Women, it seems to me, by my observation, oops, I touched my microphone. Through my observation, it looks like women get to a certain age, and for whatever reason, there's a reason why, they chop their hair. Lots of reasons why. And that's up to them. And they have the freedom to do that. It's their prerogative. And they really don't need a jerk like me telling them what to do. And I'm not. It's an observation that I would say, like, if you're a 50-year-old woman and you are trying to if you're trying to figure out if you should cut your hair, long hair kind of presents itself to the more of the youthful side, and chopping hair at 50, 60, 70 for a woman, that's kind of normal. It lends itself, chopping hair is like a rite of passage. When you get older as a woman, you tend to chop your hair off. Women do, sometimes. Not all the time, just sometimes. Well, I wrote a post something like that to my future daughter. When you feel the need to chop your hair, just think about keeping it long maybe. By the way, I'm going to be long, dead, gone. No one's going to remember the Facebook post. Also, nobody cares. But it's just, I was seeing a lot of women comment. I'll have friends say, hey everybody, should I cut my hair? And then you get all the people chime in. And my response is like, keep it long. So the way I wrote the post, my best friend's mother was like super pissed about this. It's like, I can't believe Frankie is such a jerk. I've known him my whole life. He's such a nice boy. But now maybe I don't like him so much anymore because he's writing about this. It offended her. That's the risk I take.
And what exactly are you taking that risk for? What is the purpose?
So,
like, in the same way that you see people posting selfies on Facebook and you're like, who cares? That shows vanity. That shows how empty they are up here. Don't you think that posting so much of your own thoughts and opinions is doing the exact same thing? It's giving something to people that they didn't ask for, that they probably care about just as much as you care about other people's photos of salads?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's shocking to me. Like, have you ever been on Facebook where you see like are you friends with any realtors? Like people that are in the real estate game, they're realtors. They're always showing homes. Homes. I'm not gonna buy their homes. Like almost nobody is going to buy those homes. If you want to watch homes, go to Zillow. but they have a right to show those homes. This is what they do for a living. They're literally using Facebook as a way to get their method. They're trying to make money. They're monetizing. They're doing it for money. I'm not doing any of this for money. I'm not doing podcasts for money. I'm not doing Facebook posting for money. It's a thought-provoked, it's creation. It's getting the blood flowing. It's not being boring. It's content creation. Back to content creation of in the green room, you and I were talking about content creation and what does that mean? I guess I'm the bad side of content creator. But I do know that, so Facebook is big time shadow banning me. Big time. Meta, the company, Meta, they're shadow banning me, big time.
Rats.
So the reach is not, it's good for you. It's good for you and everybody else who hates my Facebook posts. But not all of my Facebook posts are super controversial to the negative. Some of them are, about gravity.
I mean, some of them are, I was scrolling through it earlier today, and some of them I was like, I don't fully understand the need to write it, because this was on the same level of a random thought that I would have that would be fleeting within 5 seconds, and I'd be like, okay, that it came, it went. I don't need to tell anybody about this thought that I had, because why would I?
Yeah. No, I agree. You're not wrong. So these fleeting thoughts that I have, so I only post generally between a specific time frame during weekdays. I never post on the weekends because I'm not going to do that. Generally don't post after 4 p.m. I usually don't write anything on Facebook, on socials past, it's just when I'm at work looking at emails and it's up kind of in my peripheral, and my friends are chiming in, get notifications from all my friends that I love talking to, and they either agree or they disagree with what I'm saying. But it's fun. I gotta tell you, life is short. Life is short, and I'm not going out to the bars anymore. I don't really get to see my friends. I don't get to go to Chicago. I mean, I'm just really, I don't want to say I'm not trapped inside a house with a wife and kids. I don't look at it like that. But I'm definitely not talking to my friends. I don't get to text as much. People are really slow with text. I mean, if I write something on Facebook, I mean, my Twitter's way worse. I mean, if you don't like my Facebook, you'll hate my Twitter, because my Twitter's
It's not necessarily that I like or dislike what you
Right.
post. I'm just confused as to why you feel the need to. And I think for a lot of people, it comes across as this kind of self-righteousness and, kind of self-important kind of messaging that comes across as, I believe that my opinion and my take on things, even the smallest of things, is so important that I am going to go out of my way to share it with everyone on my Facebook today. And, that's your prerogative. That's your account. I think that, if people want to post pictures of their salads, go for it. If you want to post every single thought that comes into your brain, go for it.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it is more so a lack of understanding. And I am really, really interested to get to the heart of why you do that. Because what would you say to people that say that those posts are motivated by self-righteousness and maybe narcissism?
Yeah, I would say, so all of the talking heads on TV, every single actor, every single time that you open up a flat screen, all of those people are getting some kind of attention. They're getting some kind of dopamine hit. And I think the dopamine hit is probably part of it. I like the interaction, the sheer entertainment value of interacting with the people who are getting on my comments saying, all right, what?
So you like the attention that it generates, whether it's good or bad?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, any interaction that I'm getting is super fun, highly entertaining to me. Yeah.
So we kind of started this conversation about Facebook with, you had said, my goal is to lose as many friends in real life as possible.
Yeah.
And so I guess my question to that is, is the pursuit of controversy so that you can get some attention, is that worth jeopardizing the friendships that you have in real life that probably, I would assume, are probably more meaningful than ones that you could get from small interactions with people that just happen to like and comment on your Facebook posts? Like, is it worth potentially losing the people that you have outside of your screen just so that you can get some attention?
Yeah, I think I have come to this is a shocking conclusion. I think you're going to be really surprised that I have weighed it, and I've come to the understanding of this. If I was mayor of Quincy, which I have no plans of running for mayor, I don't think I would get elected, to be honest with you. I think Trump's going to get elected. But if I was going to run for mayor and get elected, the amount of people that I'm going to like that liked me before, there's a certain percentage of people that percentage of people that liked me is going to drop. It's going to go down. I think if I ran for mayor, no matter what, I don't think I would have more people like me. I think I'd have less. If I ran for public office, if I became a senator, that means like if I'm a Republican or a Democrat in Illinois, whichever party I choose, that means I've alienated the other half. So for example, like the president that just got installed, it's safe to say about 150 million people can't stand him. But before he ran for office, he was very well liked. Trump was very well liked by Oprah, liked by the entire black community, the white community, the New York community, all the rich people. Trump was very, very well liked. He used to go on The View. Do you know who Joy Behar from The View is? Mm-mm. Have you ever heard of The View?
I've probably seen her, but I don't know.
So there's a show on TV during.
I know what The View is. I just don't know which one you're talking about specifically.
It's the redhead that sits in the middle.
Okay, gotcha.
And then Whoopi Goldberg's on the left, and then I don't know who's on the right, some conservative talking head. Trump used to be very much loved by The View. He used to come on The View and kiss everybody. Like Barbara Walters. I think Barbara Walters was on The View for a while. I can't remember. Everyone's just like all we need. The second he started to say, I want to run for office, half the country starts to hate him automatically.
But you're not running for office.
No, I'm doing.
No one is forcing you to say these things on the internet.
So what I liken it to is, I guess to answer your question, I have carefully calculated the number of people that are going to start not liking me because I'm expressing my opinion on a public page. The calculations is this: anybody I lose as a friend over something like minor detail about like the way I feel about avocados or something, or the way I feel about long hair, short hair, or the way I feel about Trump or no Trump, if they want to like defriend me and not be friends with me, yes, that's worth it. It's worth it. Let them go, because I don't. Because
it didn't have to get to that. You had it get to that. You know.
I made a calculated.
Like if someone were to. I mean, there's this general consensus among most people in the country that people want unity. People want to be able to talk to their friends and family members in a way that they could before the first Trump term, to be honest. And I just don't. I'm still not following exactly like what makes that worth it for you. You said that it was the dopamine and it was the attention, but truthfully, so you're saying that the attention that you get from the controversial posts that you make is worth losing people in your real life?
No. What I'm saying is me expressing my opinion on any level. So all the topics I range, there are like 20, 30, 40 topics I'll go through and I revolve around. Like Bitcoin. If I talk about Bitcoin too much, people are like, unfollow, I'm so sick of Bitcoin. Or if they say, whatever. I mean, people are not unfollowing me because I'm putting up a cute picture of one of our kids. They wouldn't do that. They just put a heart emoji next to it and they're done. Oh, she's so cute. Oh, look at that stinker. I mean, that's probably what most people would want Facebook to be. I guess what I'm saying is, I'm not saying I do it for the attention. I'm saying the dopamine hit, the interaction, the entertainment of it, the expressing of an opinion, the right to do so, exercising my right. It's my right. I'm not trying to lose friends. I'm trying to express my opinion. But anybody who doesn't want to if anybody doesn't want to be friends anymore, or if it's taking my brand down.
What is your brand?
It's really just brutal honesty. Brutal honesty, and you don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. The brand is, interpersonally, Like, think about like our business. So you and I have a business relationship where you produce this podcast. And we were talking about content creator, and like you're a reporter, you're an investigative journalist, and you're a musician, you're all of these things. But at the end of the day, my Facebook posts aren't going to like terribly hurt our business relationship. Probably not. And on all of my interpersonal relationships with people, I got to tell you this. I went to the hospital the other day. This is a true story. Do you know who Deanna Baird is? Mm-hmm. Okay, fantastic person, okay? Do you know who Dr. Anthony Wollaston is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Know of him.
No, okay. So these are two. So Deanna Baird, awesome person. She's a nurse, okay? Dr. Anthony Wollaston, he's an ER doctor at Blessing. I'm in the emergency room at Blessing. And I brought in one of my employees. This is last week. Like last week or the week before. I walk into the emergency room. I'm seeing all of these people I know. And Deanna Baird, she goes, I didn't like your post about Dave Ramsey. She goes, that guy saved me and saved millions of people. She goes, I'm going to come around this desk and give you a whooping. I'm like, I'm sorry, Deanna Baird. I'm like, oh, no. And then, so Dr. Wollaston, he had no opinion. So now all of the receptionists are all giving their opinions. There's 6 people now, and me. I'm ignoring my poor employee that's in the ER. I mean, forget about her now. Now I'm talking to the people. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Dave Ramsey, the financial expert. That interaction would not have happened if I wouldn't have given my opinion hours before. That's what I'm in it for. It's not about gaining friends, losing friends. It's about just not a lot of people, like most people are afraid to give their opinions. I will say this. Do you know that it used to be at dinner? You don't talk about politics at the table. You don't talk about religion. Mm-hmm. Politics and religion. You don't talk about that at the table. Well, now there's social media. So now not everybody, now there's like I'll admit, there's way too much discussion of politics and religion on social media. Mm-hmm. It's not probably, I don't know if it's helping, making things worse or better or what. I don't know if that contributed to the Trump election or not. You know, community notes from X, and I have no idea what direction. If you were to tell me, Frank, you really need to be more guarded, be careful with what you say because you could lose friends and you could hurt your brand. If you were to say that to me, I would say, yes, ma'am.
What if I were to say to you, you don't necessarily need to be careful, but if I were you, I would put more consideration into what you say to see if it even makes sense.
Sure.
For me personally,
sure.
I am no longer interested in sharing a lot of my personal beliefs, not because I'm afraid necessarily, but because I don't think it's necessary. And I think that that's where a lot of people are. It's not that people are, I mean, I'm sure that in some instances people are afraid of something, but I think in a lot of instances too, it's just that they don't find it necessary for any reason. They don't see the potential arguments that might arise. They don't see that as fun. They see that as not so fun and unnecessarily leading to conflict in their lives. And it seems that the more controversial something is, the more conflict that arises from it with you, it seems kind of like you feed off of that. Would that be an accurate?
I don't shy away from it. I'm not scared of it. So for example, if I throw something out there, if I say, be very careful, like with the amount of sugar. Sugar feeds cancer. Sugar creates an inflammation. Inflammation causes stress. Stress causes disease. There's going to be somebody out there that's going to be like, Frank, shut your mouth. I don't care. I don't care about sugar. I'll eat as much sugar as I want to. Stop with your righteous
take
behavior.
A drink out of my.
No, by the way, that's French toast.
16 grams of added sugar. I'm here for a good time. Not for a long time. Thank you. Not sponsored by Bones Coffee Company.
Right. By the way, that's a pretty sweet can. I bet it's tasty.
It is tasty.
Do you love it?
I love it. It's my first one that I've ever had. Got this
awesome.
from Walmart. I don't know if I think I'm looking at the right camera. We got it from Walmart. It was $1.89, I believe, and worth every penny.
Yeah.
Worth every penny.
It's a good testimonial.
And the packaging, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Bones Coffee, everybody.
Bones Coffee.
Boy, they got a lot of free marketing out of that.
Mm-hmm. Anyways.
But to your point, listen, I don't think you're wrong, and you're not even making like a hard statement about like, I should do it, I shouldn't do it. Just like the podcast. The podcast can substitute for social media. If I never wrote anything on social media and I just gave my opinion on a podcast, people could easily say, I don't know why Frank feels it necessary to come on podcast. What? He's got to be in front of a camera. He has to have a microphone. I mean, listen, here's what is shocking. The past 5 years have taught me. People are scared to say what's on their mind. They don't want to go against the state when the state's clearly doing bad things. It's proven that they've done bad things. People don't want to give their opinions. I think society has to strike a balance between saying what is on their mind in like a value-added way and pure controversy for the sake of controversy. I don't think that I should do something just for the sake of controversy. But it's like this. If you and I were talking about a really heated topic like immigration, or if you and I were talking about, like Trump just signed a bunch of executive orders yesterday. Mm-hmm. He signed all of these EOs, right? If we were to talk about it, if you gave your opinion and I gave my opinion, is that better because it's just two people talking and the comments can't come in? Because if you post this on Facebook tomorrow, because you're the producer.
My involvement involves pressing one button 2 times at the beginning and the end. I do not do any of the editing. I don't touch it after that. I literally show up at 3:30, press a button, sit over there, and that's it. Bob does the rest. So hold him accountable if anything is wrong. Not me.
Well, when it gets published and it's on Facebook, and if there's comments about someone doesn't like what you said about Trump or someone doesn't like what I said about Trump, we're right back into it. We're right back in the same situation that we're always in with social media because we're putting a podcast on Facebook. That's all I'm saying.
And how did we get to this point that we have this podcast? Because you wanted a microphone?
I don't know because I don't know very many podcasts in Quincy. There's like Wild Quincy. Mm-hmm. Have you heard that one?
Yep.
Awesome.
I've listened to a few episodes.
As a matter of fact,
that one's great, yeah.
Those guys are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All the people who do podcasts in the area, there aren't that many. I know of 2 or 3. But they're on 100. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's this joke that everybody's got a podcast now. Mm-hmm. You know? And there's a market for podcasting. Somebody out there that is really good at it can monetize it. I'm not trying to monetize it. I'm just trying to add value, add content, get really good people on. We've done like 80 or 90 Frankie Says. We've done, I did 20 or 30 Club Muddies, and then I went solo and did Frankie Say, right? But I mean, the people who get to express their opinion, they get a voice. Mm-hmm. So on one hand, it's a community service. On the other hand, it's just fun. But what happens if we touch the third rail? What happens if we talk about politics? Are we allowed to do that? But yeah, it's
Have you ever felt like you couldn't express your opinion?
Oh, sure. I mean, like so I don't write everything I'm thinking on Facebook, or I don't say everything I'm thinking.
Why not?
In a pod. Well, because everybody's got hopefully, the line that they think that they shouldn't cross.
But you said earlier that you were not afraid to say what was on your mind at all, that you don't hold yourself back, that you say exactly what's on your mind.
I think discretion is the better part of valor. So, yeah, I'm not afraid. I'm unafraid.
But you censor yourself.
Yes.
Why?
Because there is a line. Like, it's like this. If a man's walking down the street and he's very, very happily married, and he sees a woman coming at him, hold on.
I'm worried.
And he says to himself, I like that woman's shoes. Or that woman's hot. Or she's cute. Or whatever. It jumps in the man's head and quickly leaves. The man doesn't have to, the husband or whoever, doesn't need to turn to his spouse, his partner, his wife, and say, wow, did you see her?
He would just make a Facebook post about it, saying, today I saw.
And then he would call his wife and say, hey, I'm going to make a Facebook post about this woman I saw. Mm-hmm. It's about this subject. Can I continue? And she's going to say yes or no. She's going to say, what does it say? I'm like, it says this, this, this. She'll say, no, you probably shouldn't do that. Okay, sorry, babe. Or she'll be okay with it. Luckily, I'm married to a woman that is so confident in herself and is so my wife, Rachel, people talk about it like how, I love my wife so much. nobody is married to Rachel but me. And I'm very lucky. And I know where I stand. I know where my bread is buttered. So I ask my wife all the time, if you think I'm writing stuff on Facebook or saying things on pods, if you think I'm like going in a really bad direction, tell me. I have a men's group. Do you know who Payne Schoen is? Payne Schoen, he's kind of gotten really big. I think he's on his way to Belgium right now. But he started a mastermind group, and we've gone 5 years strong. We still have the same.
Oh, this is what you were talking about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so I asked those guys, and those guys are all more accomplished than I am in life. We've got 26 kids amongst us 7 men. That's a lot. That's a lot of, that we're way past the fertility rate. But I ask those men, I go, will you tell me if my Facebook posts, if I'm really going to hurt my brand like terribly, will you let me know? And if I say something on a podcast that you just think, if I'm doing something to where you don't want to even associate with me anymore because I've gone down such a terrible road, will you tell me? They're like, yeah, of course. So I'm not that bad.
Has anyone ever told you anything like that?
Yeah, like my friend. My friend called me up or sent me a text that said that his mother read my post about women over 60 keeping their hair long. And then it was a post about my future daughter, my advice to my future daughter. When you turn 60 and you think that you should chop your hair just because society tells you to, but you want to keep it long and lush, you do what you want to do. Because long hair is a youthful look.
Right.
Well, my friend's mother, who is a beautiful woman in her own right, she's amazing, she has short hair. She was turned off by it. I'll tell you what, the longer I talk, the higher of a chances of me saying something wrong, stupid, indifferent, ignorant. Like what's that old adage? It's better to remain silent than open your mouth and remove all doubt. To be a clown, or I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. That sounds kind of good. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, like the longer I talk, the more I write, I'm going to run into a buzzsaw somewhere. So I hope that answers your question.
It didn't really, but that's okay. We can move on.
Dang it.
Okay, so since you are a fan of controversy, I suppose we will get into some current events.
Oh boy.
Nothing that crazy. The last Facebook post that you made was pertaining to the sale of Greenland. You had said, sources tell me it's probably worth $3.2 billion today. That's like 30 times what we give Ukraine. Maybe we should buy it. So I wanted to ask you first, you said the sources tell me. What are the sources that you used?
So before I write a post like that, and I'm contemplating the purchase of Greenland, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder how much we paid for Alaska. There was a Secretary of State back then, I think it was during Lincoln's time, where there was a Secretary of State with the last name of Seward. And he purchased Alaska. Like the United States purchased Alaska for some X amount of dollars. I think for like $7 million. I thought to myself, man, Greenland's not as nice as Alaska. It's like a frozen tundra of almost nothingness. There's some people that live on Greenland. And so I do this deep dive. I do the deep dive and I educate myself on Greenland. Like they're owned, it's a territory of Denmark. I didn't know that. Like before I write the Facebook post and I start to get into it, I want to have ammo.
Right.
I'm trying to learn.
So where did you see that
Sources
it
tell
would
me
be about $3.2 billion?
that is the general consensus of what people think the sale of Greenland would be because of GDP. It's an equation. It's a function of Greenland's GDP, their gross domestic product, per capita. Is how do you get every inhabitant of Greenland a multimillionaire in seconds? How do you do that? And the general consensus was I took the low and the high and I gave myself a median. So when I say sources tell me, that's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek. Because sources aren't like calling me up saying,
right.
Frank, I just want to let you know. I mean, that's not what's happening, right? So again, with the Facebook post is the potential purchase of Greenland, is that even interesting? Is it interesting? Does anybody care? It's in the news. Like the new president that's coming in, number 47, he's talking about it. Some people are very much against that. Some people are for it. Yeah, America, take as much territory. We're right back in the colonial times or imperialistic times where America's just taking what it wants. Some people don't like that. And some people do like it. So yeah, I mean, whatever I wrote in there is probably any kind of information I'm getting off the interwebs.
So, because I'm just curious, I mean, like, whether it's on a Facebook post or it's something that you say in the podcast that you refer to sources or something. So, I mean, I was able to very quickly find multiple sources, one of them being the American Action Forum, which is a center-right agency that kind of focuses on research, data analysis that is then used to both inform policy as well as to explain policy to your everyday citizens. But that agency estimated that the price of Greenland would not be anywhere near $3.2 billion. It would actually be, at the lowest, $200 billion, and as much as $2.8 trillion.
Holy moly.
And so that is built off of, that's based on the mineral reserves that are estimated to be on Greenland, and that's also based upon its geographical location in terms of where that might come into play for trade and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I guess the idea that it's no big deal and that this is what I saw. I think a lot of people, especially at the local level, if they do read your posts and if they do believe what you say, they're gonna see that, they're gonna believe it, and then they're gonna recycle that information in conversations that they have with other people. So I guess if you feel the need to share your personal beliefs and opinions at the rate that you do you not feel a sense of responsibility that the information that you're sharing when you're presenting it as factual, that it should be factual?
When it comes to the value of Greenland?
When it comes to information in general.
Well, let's talk about the value of Greenland. Let's use this example. I don't care what the number is.
But the number matters.
But it's a Facebook post. Now, I'm not working for Muddy River when I'm writing a Facebook post. I'm not getting paid to be an investigative journalist. I'm taking the average. I'm taking inflation from what we got Alaska for $7 million. How much is Alaska worth today? I mean,
I don't know how much Alaska is worth,
worth a
but
lot.
Truman's $100 million offer to purchase Greenland in the 40s, adjusted for inflation and GDP growth, would be about $12.9 billion today. So that is still much lower than what it's actually worth. Again, based off of the mineral reserves, there's about $4.4 trillion worth of mineral reserves, I believe, but only a very small fraction of that is accessible right now. So you wouldn't be getting that $4.4 trillion if we were to acquire it. But if we were to pay the, $2.8 trillion for it, I mean, in the entirety of 2024, the country spent around, I believe, $6.75 trillion. So if we purchased Greenland, that would be over a third of the budget for the entire year. So if we're making the argument that we should purchase Greenland and we're not really going to be getting a whole lot out of it for what we're paying for it, like what should we cut to pay for that?
So, okay, you asked a really interesting question. I just want to let's answer that question. I just want to talk about one thing. Denmark, I believe, is a part of NATO. Okay, I don't know all of the countries in NATO, but I'm pretty sure most of the countries in Europe are part of NATO. I would assume that Denmark is a part of NATO. Most of Greenland is under ice. There's only a teeny tiny small part of it that's actually inhabited. It is a strategic geographic position to hold as a way to tell Russia to shut up and back off.
So should we cut Social Security? Should we cut Medicare?
So now we'll talk about what we should cut to pay for it. I've got no problem. So you know how people kind of pick favorites when they're talking about cutting? Should we cut Social Security? Should we cut Medicare? Should we cut the Pentagon? Let's assume that Greenland was, you want to say 100 billion? What's a good? Let's use your number.
The low estimate would be 200 billion. But that's only based off of the accessible mineral reserves. That's not taking into account its geographical location and the advantage that it would provide to us against Russia and China.
Right. So let's just talk about paying for it. So there's lots of ways that we can pay for it. We can print the money at the Treasury. That's a really bad idea. That causes inflation. That causes the poor, instead of paying $3 for a loaf of bread, now they're paying $4. The rich don't care, but the poor care when you inflate their money. I mean, the rich care, but you know what I mean. Like it's way worse for the poor. So we could pay for Greenland. I mean, let's not even try to cut Social Security and Medicare right now. Let's not even play favorites. Like, I would say that you would not be for cutting that, right? Social Security and Medicare, those are not programs that I believe are working very efficiently, okay? I think you could easily cut 1% or 2% out of the budget, and every single program without playing favorites, all the way across the board, and use that as a down payment for Greenland. And you could do that every year for 10 years.
So if that 1% of cuts translated to hundreds of thousands of people losing health care, that would be worth it for you to purchase Greenland?
They would not be losing health care. No.
But if we're making cuts all across the board, then that includes Medicare.
Like a 1% cut to Medicare and a 1% cut to Social Security, which I'm not saying we need to do that right now, okay? I'm saying, to be honest, to be clear, I do think a 1% cut across the board for every single program for 10 years straight, 1% is plausible. Easy.
So we're doing 1% each year over the course of 10 years, so we're getting to 10% cuts over 10 years?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, at the very least, 1% cut across every single program. Do it once. We don't do that. We don't cut anything. Everything just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows into a big monster. We don't cut anything. I will tell you, if you made a 1% cut to Medicare and Social Security, nobody would lose their health care. You would take the 20% inefficiency, I'm guessing it's 20%. I don't know. I don't think those are 100% efficient programs. I don't think they're 99% efficient. But let's assume that they're 5% efficient, 10% efficient, 20% efficient. I mean, take a look at like how much, when you go to a hospital, do you know how much a Tylenol costs at the hospital? It's like I don't know if this is true, but I've heard it's $16.
Probably,
I've heard $32. Okay. Well, if you just make Tylenol 25 cents, if you just say, you cannot charge any more than 25 cents per Tylenol in every single hospital in America. Well, there's your 1%. What I'm saying is all the government programs.
But that's not how government cuts work, that's...
Government doesn't know how to cut. Government is terrible. Federal government is terrible. The inefficiencies are terrible. I'm saying you could pay for Greenland, whatever price you want to give, $3 billion, $100 billion, $200 billion, easy. We have given $100 billion to Ukraine.
We've given, actually, I believe it's $56 billion.
It's more than that.
It's not.
I think it is. You want to say 56? Let's use your number. Where did that money come from?
Where did it come from, or where did I find that information?
No. Where did the money come from?
Our revenue?
No. The government spends whatever it wants to spend, and when it's done, then it figures out where to get the money. That's how the government works.
So we should buy Greenland and then figure out where to get the money for it after.
No, I'm saying you can cut every program by 1%. You're going to get your $100 billion.
And you think that if you made a 1% cut to healthcare each year for 10 years, that would result in a total 10% decrease in funding? You don't think that would result in anyone losing health care? I definitely don't think it would result in anyone losing their health care if you did it for 1 year. Because I'm backtracking. I'm saying 1%. Let's talk about the 1%. Okay. If Medicare and Social Security is 20% inefficient, do you know that we're living in the Medicare, like the golden age of Medicare? This is the golden age of Medicare. Like, this is unbelievable. Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme. Like, what I'm going to pay in a Social Security, I'm not going to get that back. You don't get that back. It is a joke. It is a monster program that when it was created, it was probably a good idea. And then it grew into a monster. It's extremely inefficient. Like just Social Security, terribly inefficient. Medicare, terribly inefficient. The laws are very bad. Why do you think Medicare is bad? And who do you think Medicare serves?
So you've got Medicaid that serves the poor and Medicare that serves the elderly, right?
I think, is it the other way around?
Medicaid is for the disenfranchised, the underprivileged, the poor, the broke. That's what Medicaid is for the poor.
And Medicare is for elderly.
Medicare is for the elderly.
Okay.
And the way that Medicare works is if, let's say you're 64 years old or you're 60-some years old, whatever it is. I think when you're 65, they rip you out of your private health insurance plan. That's been working just fine. They rip you out of it, and they force you into the government program. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. That's unethical. It's unethical. They should let you keep your insurance. As a matter of fact, if Congress wrote a law that says you have to keep paying Medicare in your payroll taxes, but you don't have to go into Medicare, you have to keep on paying. You get to keep on paying into your private insurance. Well, that would fund Medicare even more. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now with my education. I'm paying with all the properties, paying somewhere between $27,000 and $30,000 a year in property taxes, and then I fork over another $9,000, $10,000 for my kids to go to St. Peter's. I get to opt out of the public school system. They force me to pay in, but they allow me to opt out. When you're in Medicare, I've been paying into Medicare since I was 16, 18 years old, something like that. When I'm paying and paying and paying and paying, when I turn 65 and I don't want to go into Medicare, I want to go into I want to stay in private insurance. Why can't I have the right to do that? I'm still gonna. I've paid in my whole life. I'm doing the government a favor. I'm doing all of my neighbors and all of my citizens a favor because I'm never going to take any money out of it. Why don't they let you do that? Because they want you. They want the government programs to be as big as possible. They get bigger and bigger and bigger and more efficient, and a 1% cut is not going to cause anybody to die or lose their health care. It will not happen. It would force Medicare to be more efficient.
Okay. I can't comment on any of that without being able to independently verify it.
Sure.
And just from, you know,
community notes.
Well, just from, I mean, the original Facebook post that got us talking about this, I think that would indicate that I want to fact check everything you say before I take it at face value and make a response. But let's very quickly move on to the January 6th pardons. I wanted to talk with you about that a little bit.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? And for anyone that hasn't been made aware of this, Trump did sign an executive order into effect on Monday that pretty much gave a blanket pardon to all of the January 6th rioters. He commuted their sentences for the ones that were serving jail time, and for the others, he issued a complete blanket pardon. Among those, we've got Stuart Rhodes. He was the founder of the Oath Keepers. We have Enrique Tarrio. He was the former chairman of the Proud Boys. Both of those are very far-right. In instance of the Proud Boys, it's a neo-fascist organization. Both kind of... I want to say that the Oath Keepers are not as promotional with violence as the Proud Boys are, but they both fully believe in and often resort to intimidation and violence as a means to extend their message to the people. So, I mean, what's your take on that?
So, I guess you start with trying to figure out if J6 was a riot. Was it? So we'll get to whether or not it was an insurrection, but it was either a riot or it was a protest. Was it a peaceful protest that turned into a violent protest? Was it a protest that resulted in the murder of somebody? I mean, somebody got murdered. One of the J6 protesters got murdered. Nobody from the authorities got murdered. There was some incorrect reporting that said like 5 people got murdered, like Capitol Police, people who were trying to protect the people in the riot. 5 people got murdered.
Anything that I had seen did not say that 5 people got murdered. There was lots of things that I saw that said 5 people died as a result. Several officers did commit suicide as a result of that. instance. So yes,
Okay.
people did die as a result
Somebody
of
got
January
murdered.
6th.
Yeah, somebody got murdered.
Or
during-
did somebody when you say somebody got murdered, that makes it sound like somebody was targeted because of XYZ and they were taken out with some premeditated measures, whereas if someone's attacking your property and let's say that you're a huge Second Amendment guy, okay? Someone comes onto your property, is climbing up your walls. I think that the way that we might describe handling that situation, if someone were to handle that with lethal force, might be a little bit different than the way that you're describing what happened.
We have to
with
take.
that.
We would have to look at the video. We'd have to put a video on and show. If we don't want to call it a murder, let's bring it down to like a killing.
Yeah,
We could say
someone was definitely killed as a result
somebody
of,
was shot.
of, yes.
And that person, if you look at the video, that person was doing something that forced Capitol Police to execute them. Okay. So J6, should the J6 protesters, should they be free? Should their sentences be commuted? Should they be pardoned? I will say this. I don't want to see any more of that. I don't want to see any of those kinds of protests in the Capitol that lead to death. I don't think they were trying to overthrow the government. I don't. I think that the Enrico Berry guy from the Proud Boys and the other guy from the Oath Keepers, those are two people out of a whole mess of people. They were just...
But they're at the top.
They're at the top, but they're also... We're talking about J6 people.
Mm-hmm.
There's also like grandmothers that were just strolling through, just following the crowd. They didn't know what was going on.
Right.
Very
There
excited.
was one that used to be known as MAGA Granny. Her name is Pamela Hemphill. She had gotten arrested and convicted for her role in it, and so she received a pardon as well. But she denied the pardon and said that accepting it would be a continuation of the propaganda and the gaslighting about January 6th. And she has since been quoted talking about January 6th as, I lost my critical thinking. Now I know it was a cult, and I was in a cult. She was saying that about the Stop the Steal movement.
Okay. One thing that I can't really figure out, so you've got the protesters who got pardoned, and then the people on the January 6th committee got pardoned. Mm-hmm. So both sides are pardoning their people. Really, it boils down to this: we don't want to see this kind of activity. We don't want to live in a world where the federal government. I mean, the amount of feds that were there on January 6th, the amount of feds that were there. Did you see the
video of Josh Hawley running for his life? Yes, I did. Have you seen it? It's really funny.
I have no doubt.
Like an hour before he was outside, and then you just see the video. It's just it's like a still, and you just see. It's really funny, actually. It's funny. But I mean, if you're saying I don't want any more violence to happen, political violence is bad. Political violence is bad, and I think that everyone's on the same page about that. But at the same time, when you're pardoning these people that were convicted for using violence to overthrow the government, that's what they were convicted for.
So let me ask you this.
Prosecutors had to prove that they were violent in their means. They assaulted a police officer, or they assaulted somebody, or they did something else that was violent, or whatever. So that threshold needed to be met for them to be convicted, at least on charges of sedition. So Enrique Tarrio, he was the former chairman of the Proud Boys. He was quoted following the pardon. He said, "Success is going to be retribution." So coming from a violent leader who was already convicted of being a violent leader, who represents an organization that, violence is kind of a core part of who they are.
Can you give me some examples of the violence that they committed? Like what is it? Tarrio?
Yes.
Enrique
Tarrio.
So he's the leader of the Proud Boys.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah,
He was the
fine.
former chairman of the Proud Boys.
What violence? I'm unaware I'm not saying he didn't commit violence. I'm unaware.
The specific thing that he did, I don't know. But he was convicted of sedition, and a requirement of a conviction for sedition requires that prosecutors prove that there was violence in his efforts that there was violence done against members of the government.
A lot of those guys, kind of up at the top, I have been looking. I want to see the examples of their violence. I've asked before. They're like, yeah, I don't know what it is. They don't have it on video. It's kind of I don't know what the violence was. I need to see it or hear what it was.
Well, there's lots of videos and pictures that show all of the violence that was committed that day.
But there's also videos of people just walking around.
Right, but the people that were violent,
too.
Well, the pardon pertains to all of them. So it excuses all of those acts of violence. It doesn't matter if it was, it doesn't matter necessarily whether Enrique Tarrio punched a police officer or backhanded them. He committed some act of violence that was enough to convict him on charges of sedition.
Well, him just being the leader of the Proud Boys, the government would say that is enough to convict.
No, that isn't enough.
Okay, then then we'd have to figure out what.
If that was enough, then he would have been charged with something far before January 6th ever happened.
But sedition. I will tell you this. Here's how I feel about sedition. The United States was born out of sedition. Okay. I'm not excusing any of these things. We have to go case by case, person by person. I'm not going to say all the J6 protesters should or should not be pardoned. We got to go case by case by case.
So then why do you think that he didn't do that then? If you think that it should have been done on a case by case basis and looking at each individual's crimes, if you will, to say, okay, we're going to pardon everybody except for the ones that assaulted police officers. That, I think, would have been a little bit more palatable for the general electorate, for his other Republican members in...
It's very clear that Biden pardoned his J6 people out of politics. It's very clear to me that Trump pardoned his J6 people out of politics.
Well, there is a slight difference in that all of the people that Trump pardoned, well, not all of them, but a large portion of them are convicted felons convicted of violent crimes. The people
what percentage of them?
I don't know.
1%? 2%?
I would say
3%?
far more than that.
I don't think so.
But the people that Biden pardoned, if we want to have that conversation, then cool. That's a separate conversation.
No, I'm saying Trump did it out of politics. I'm even siding with you a little bit, saying like, oh my gosh, there's people that like need to stay in jail. I agree with you. There probably are people from J6, like the protesters. Mm-hmm. Anybody that like was just strolling through and started attacking cops, Capitol Police. They started attacking them. Yeah, that's like a serious offense. You need to be put in jail for that, or you need to be tried, fairly convicted, in a good judicial system, and then have some type of punishment. I'm for that. I'm not even saying those. I mean, listen, if we would have seen a guy murder just start bringing out a gun and start spraying down Capitol Police just because he thought Trump told him to do it, you got to put that guy in jail. You can't let him out of jail. I'm siding with you on that. I'm saying sedition is an interesting thing for the government to say. When the government says sedition, it rubs me the wrong way. I would just tell you, the United States, America, was born from sedition. Jesus Christ was killed because of sedition. And I'm not comparing those people to Enrique Tarrio Barrio. I'm not comparing the founding of our country or Jesus Christ to the leader of the Proud Boys. I'm not. I'm saying when the feds, you know how many feds were there? There were so many feds. So many feds were there in plain clothes, like really riling up people in, like orchestrating that thing. They were complicit. The federal government was complicit. So I can see why. You're
saying that there were members of the federal government that were incognito in that group and that were egging people on.
Yes, and
where did you get that information from?
When I was watching the congressional testimony, when U.S. congressmen and women were asking the head of the leaders of the FBI, how many feds did you have there at the Capitol on J6? You know what they said?
That were in plain clothes, incognito, egging people on?
Yes. Do you know what they said?
So that's what they were asking, or were they asking how many people were?
No. Our Congress people were asking the FBI for information on how many feds were there. How many feds were there?
But that is different than saying how many feds were there, or how many feds were there in plain clothes, incognito, pretending to be part of the mob and egging people on.
No,
that is the difference.
That's the question too. They asked the question 15 different times. Like they asked the question 15 different ways. Every single way that you could slice it up, they asked the question. Do you know what the FBI's answer was every single time? We're not gonna answer that. We're not gonna answer. Okay, well, how many FBI people were in regular clothing, fake clothing, people's clothing, civilian clothing? How many people were there? They think, there's an idea. Some people think that there were about 300 to 500 feds there trying to get people to storm the Capitol. So when our Congress people asked the FBI that, the FBI goes, I'm not gonna tell you. Over and over and over again, the FBI was questioned. And they're like, good luck finding that out. That's the reason why people are like, holy crap. This is, I mean, the US government does this. They're very, very good at that. The FBI, the CIA, they are very good at going to other countries and causing problems. I mean, look what they did with Osama bin Laden. I mean, look what they did with like all of the operation, whatever you want to call it. Operation Paperclip, Operation this, Operation Mockingbird, Operation this. All the different operations that the CIA do, they're like, it is high level stuff. They're very good. They've done it in Panama, they did it in Nicaragua, they did it in Venezuela. Our government goes around the world and is a shit disturber. We're not always the good people. We're not always the good guys. Sometimes we're the bad guys.
For sure.
And our own people ask the FBI, can you give us some information? The FBI goes, no, we're not going to tell you anything because you don't deserve to know it. But do you know why the FBI, in my opinion, why they wouldn't say anything? It's because it's very incriminating. It would show that the FBI was there, like kind of orchestrating. Like, I'm not saying the FBI was like, come, open the door. I have no idea. We don't know. And there's so many question marks. That Trump felt it necessary to do a full pardon all the way across the board. And there were so many other question marks that Biden, on the other side, politically, decided to pardon all his people too. It is politics at its best and its worst. It's gross.
I would say that the motivation for, at least from where I'm sitting, the motivation for Biden's pardon seemed more from the fact that Trump had said that Liz Cheney should have guns pointed at her, and so that maybe was in an effort to protect her safety from people like all of the people that Trump just pardoned, who he has been telling for years now. I mean, I know people in town that believe that Nancy Pelosi should hang on Pennsylvania Avenue, and then they go to church the next day. And
really?
Yes, they do. And so for someone to continuously build up these very, very violent this very violent imagery, and how all of these people deserve this because they were wronging him, rather than maybe there was wrongdoing here and they were executing the consequences of such wrongdoing. Not that he is some god that needs to be, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But
I'm with you. I understand the spirit of what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think that the core of Trump's pardons could lead to a very, very violent outcome, and it kind of permisses this violence and the idea that that's how we make a point in this country.
Or something like his pardons, to kind of like piggyback on what you're saying, because I can see that. It's like, okay, all of this bad stuff happened. Look how bad it was. And then Trump comes in and says, oh, that's all. He's saying it's okay. It's fine. We can do that. That's permissible in this country. And you and I know it's not. Those kinds of things should not be happening. And hopefully we can have a nonviolent revolution to fix these things, because the country is very broken. It's a very broken country. And we do need to have a revolution, and let's try to make it nonviolent. The J6 protest, if you want to call it on insurrection, if I was in charge of the insurrection, and this is where I can get in trouble because I'm saying this in jest now, tongue in cheek, if I'm in charge of the insurrection, it's not going to go down like that. Like, we are going to take control of the government if I'm in charge of the insurrection. By the way, I'm not in charge of an insurrection. I'm not going to be putting together on insurrection because I'm not going to send my people in without guns. I'm not going to send them in. I'm not going to send them in with pipe cleaners. What are those zip ties? The J6 protesters went in with zip ties. That's not how you overthrow a government. It's a very poor way. That's the reason why I think it is a protest, riot, somewhere in between. I don't want to see it again. I don't want anyone to get killed. I want a nice, peaceful transfer of power. And we need to, I won't say make America great because I don't say things like that. But if we can do the Dr. King version, which is everybody be cool to each other, and we're going to rely on the content of everyone's character.
And we're going to wait for Enrique Tarrio's retribution, I suppose. Okay, that is it for today. If you tuned in, definitely feel free to fact check every single thing that Frank said. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Aspen.